Like this. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you about my town. I'm gonna tell you a big bad story, baby. Yeah, it's all about my town. Yeah, down by the river.
Eva Chan was born in Guangzhou, China in the late 60s and spent her first 22 years growing up in a communist country. Her daily life there was drastically different from the lives of those living in America at the time. Her visions of America at the time were not very detailed. In the time she was growing up, the citizens of China would have been very isolated from the other parts of the world. It's different now, she says, of the censorship in China, but at the time she only knew what the government wanted her to know.
Yeah, freedom of speech, and also we couldn't leave the country. Like here, we could just travel most part of the world, but in China, we couldn't go anywhere.
She has an older brother as well, and just a few years after her birth, Mao instilled the one-child policy. Her entire life may have never existed had her parents decided to wait a couple more years.
The daily life of a young child in China would shock American children.
I went to school and came home for lunch, and then went back to school, and then came home and cook for my parents, and then they came home from work. I cleaned.
To Chinese children, adults were highly respected.
You saw everything in China, teachers, parents, and the government, they're like gods to us, whether you like it or not.
What we take for granted here in America is something that would have been illegal in China, the freedom of speech.
You cannot speak your mind. You said to worship and obey the government.
Like most immigrants, Eva came to America to fulfill her dream.
Like everybody said, the American dream, to have a home on my own and to make a career.
When Eva arrived in America in 1987, she became quickly overwhelmed by the differences, but she soon learned that some of these differences would change her life for the better. The first day she interviewed for a job, she got it, much different than in China, where the screening for her job at a posh 5-star hotel lasted a very long time and had rigorous regulations.
I don't know how they happened. I still don't know because I didn't know English at the time. I think the hiring manager at the time was, maybe either saw the potential that I have or just being too kind.
In America, we have laws that allow for fair job opportunities. Companies cannot disclude someone based on race or gender. In China, however, they had no qualms with picking only the pretty, thin girls to work at the reception desks of their hotels. And they would tell the prospective girls to their faces.
There's no political correctness. The job requirement, they can just blatantly tell you, we want your specific physical requirements. Height, you had to look, they call it decent, pleasant looking. I know here, there's no way that you can.
Her living conditions in her first few years were what she calls not the best time of my life. She lived with her husband in a house with a bunch of his relatives, and it was close quarters.
I lived with my ex-husband and his family together under the same roof, and wasn't the ideal way for living.
Here in America, if we wanted groceries, we would simply go to the closest Stop and Shop and pick up however much food we wanted. But in China, they were allowed only certain rations of certain foods, toiletries, and other household items. Her daughter Nicole provided her with a very different kind of childhood. Even now, Eva is still baffled at the differences in the freedom in Nicole's life. Even the smallest things like heat and electricity were not present in her own childhood.
Hot, cold water. We had water, running water. We had electricity. That was it. There's no heat and no air conditioning, no telephone.
The drastic differences between China and America were not the only changes she noticed. Over the last few decades, Eva says she has witnessed a more diversified workplace.
one thing stood out is when I first came to this country, I saw people have like my background from mainland China or from Hong Kong. And this is with my company, my positions all in a supporting role. Recent years, and I see high executives also from some from mainland China. I'm very grateful. I felt it is such a blessing to have lived through two different parts of the world.
Today, Eva works at John Hancock as an investment analyst. She owns her own home in Newton, which she rents out. She has a 19-year-old daughter in her second year of college at UMass. Eva was lucky enough to witness two different cultures and lifestyles through her childhood and her daughter's childhood.
You don't know how you met me, you don't know why you can't turn around and say goodbye. All you know is when I'm with you, I make you free and swim through your veins like a fish in the sea. I'm saying, follow me, everything is alright. I'll be the one to tuck you in at night, and if you want to leave, I can guarantee